Hi, my name is Dick Otto with the Boone County History and Cultural Center of the Boone County Historical Society. Pleased to visit with you today about I call it the magical traveling trunk, in that it was magical in the sense that the family, this trunk was utilized by not only you, but your whole family to bring their goods to Missouri when they immigrated to Missouri early in our history. Boone County, as you may know, will be celebrating a bicentennial. Bicentennial meaning 200 years. We will celebrate that. In fact, we are celebrating it at this time in 2020. The state of Missouri will celebrate its bicentennial in 2021. So as a trivia thing, we were a county before the state was a state. Now, I am so pleased to be living in this present time in that I have glasses and I can use them. The magical trunk would have a whole lot of different little compartments in it where you could store different things. Typically, we hide our paper stuff up here. And here, I will typically get off script. Since we have no script, it's hard to get off script. But here is a neat little toy if you want to have fun with the toy. Thinking, what did kids do for fun way back when? All this is a button and a string. I've been told the best string you can use for this is a string that you get from the bag of feed that you feed your birds. When you pull off that string, thread doesn't work, another string doesn't work, but that works real good. But anyway, you wind it up. That's all there is to it, and then you pull it, and it winds itself back up. So if you had nothing to play with, this wasn't all bad. So you too can make one of these at home, but all you have to do is find a button and string and have fun. Enjoy. Oh, other things we might find in our traveling trunk. Anyone want to guess what this might be? Doesn't make any noise. This was to darn your socks. You would take your sock, put your sock over there, and you would use this so you didn't stick your fingers with the needle, and you could darn your socks with this. Inside here, oh, this is one of my favorites too. This little piece here is deer skin. I know the gentleman that got this deer, and he took the deer, he skinned it, and then he took this piece of leather and he threw the whole hide into the pond where the water, actually he referred to it as a beaver pond, where the water and all the other funky stuff in there ate all the flesh that was on there and the fur itself, and then he made himself a billfold. Now this, back in 1820 when Missouri was settled, you really had no need for a billfold. Why is that? You didn't have a driver's license, you didn't have a credit card, you didn't have a telephone ringing in the background, which is fine. You didn't have any paper money, so you really didn't need a billfold. But he made himself a billfold, a modern day billfold. And this is just one application of deer leather, whereas here we have another application of deer leather. This is much softer, very soft in fact, but this would be to carry a knife in, to sheath your knife so you didn't cut yourself. So once again, you made what you needed. In Missouri, we like to talk about Missouri being the show me state. And as you travel, I want to give you a little hint here. As you travel and someone says, "Where are you from?" You say, "Missouri." And they say, "Missouri? I really don't know where Missouri is." I said, very simple. Missouri is in the central United States. If you can envision the map of the United States. I'm going to ask you just to kind of think about that map right now and where Missouri is. Missouri, if we go 2 states to the north, we're now in Canada. We're outside of the United States. If you go 2 states to the south, we're in the Gulf of Mexico. Boom, okay, that's kind of center, top to bottom, or north to south. If you go to the west, if you pass through 5 states, you will be in the Pacific Ocean. If you go 5 states to our east, you will be in the Atlantic Ocean. So if someone says, where is Missouri? You can say, Central United States. 2 states up, you're in Canada. 2 states to the south, you're in the Gulf of Mexico. 5 states to the west, you're in the Pacific Ocean. 5 states to the east, you're in the Atlantic Ocean. And not only that, Missouri, Columbia, Missouri, Boone County, Missouri. We have a little truck stop out here on I-70 called Midway. People were very descriptive in identifying places, so that was midway across the state of Missouri. It's basically equidistant, or the same distance, from Midway, Missouri to Kansas City line going into Kansas, or the same distance to St. Louis and the St. Louis line going into Illinois. So it is truly midway, Missouri, Boone County, Missouri. Now, let me open this up. Also, we have other stuff hidden in here. Sorry. Toys. We talk about kids playing with toys. I have one item in here. Basically a homemade doll baby. No face, but I can imagine a little girl just enjoying this to no end. We also present information on the railroads. Railroads were very important in the development of the state of Missouri. And I have some railroad spikes in here I'll get out. But we talk about the railroads and how they became such an important part of the settling of the state of Missouri, and how you would drive the spikes into the railroad ties to hold the rails in place, because if they were too loose and they came apart, your engine would drop down onto the ties and you would stop. If they came to the center and squeezed it too much, you couldn't go either way also. Now, one of the things, early school. I know some of you are out of school now because of the virus, so you know when we're making this video. This I like to refer to as one of the very early tablets, computer tablets. Because what would you do? Let's see if I can find some chalk. Nope, marbles. If you had to occupy your time playing marbles with something, a lot of kids would do. But with a chalkboard, you could write on here. If you wrote on here, that became a word processor. If you wrote down numbers, that became a calculator. So I think this was a very, very early laptop computer. Here, how would you write notes back then? The use of a quill pen was very important. What is a quill pen? A quill is a feather. You would dip this into a well of ink, get a little bit on there, and then you could write, and that was a quill pen. I would encourage you sometime to go onto the campus of the University of Missouri-Columbia, near the columns. You will find a sculpture of Thomas Jefferson there with a quill in his hand, and his laptop computer. He's writing away. In person, I have a bigger story to tell about that, but I won't bother you with this time. One little boy looking at this comment, he really liked this because there were so many places to hide things, and there are lots of places to hide things in here. We talk about the geography of the state of Missouri. In 1804, based upon the 1904 history book, they said in 1804 approximately 1/4 of the surface of the state of Missouri was open land, meaning 3/4 of it was forestry or had trees in it. Today, that is basically reversed. We only have 1/4 of our land has woods on it, trees on it. The other 3/4 are now open prairie or what have you. Mentioning prairie, the early settlers were very good in describing what they saw and giving it the name. In the Columbia Public School Districts, we have a school called 2 Mile Prairie. How did that come about? The early settlers came there to the prairie and said, this is a pretty wide prairie. And they came to the conclusion it was 2 miles wide. So that became 2 Mile Prairie in that northern Boone County. Southern Boone County, I think all the children know about Rockbridge State Park. It's very descriptive of what the geology is there. We have a rock bridge. So I would encourage you as you travel, look at the names, hear the names, and get familiar with the names of the places you're visiting, and see if you can figure out why they would have called it that. In Columbia, in Boone County, we have Locust Grove. Must have been a grove of locust trees. It was, and it still is. Here at the Historical Society, we have the Maplewood House. Maplewood. There was a forest of maple trees there. So everything has a meaning to it if you will just look a little past the initial thing. Let me move this just a minute. I'll be right back. Oh my, what do we have here now? In the artifacts here, this probably did not come with the early settlers, but it is indicative of the artifacts, and artifacts just means something old, so please don't refer to me as an artifact. But this was an iron to iron your clothes with. This one was unique in that the heating mechanism for this was coal. You would get your coal burning, throw it in here, close it up, and it would heat the metal, and you could iron your clothes accordingly. Coal, where I grew up in Osage County, Missouri, down near Jefferson City. We did not have coal, but here in Boone County, we do have coal. There were the same about 5 feet thick that ran anywhere from the surface area down to about 150 feet. So they did mining for coal. That's why we have the Finger Lake State Parks. Because they mined and they made all these fingers out into the area. Then it filled up with water, became Finger Lakes. One of the items I like to share all the time, and we take these out for hands-on experience. Trust me, I'm not trying to call in a big buck or anything. The question is, antlers or horns? Well, I'll give you, they're antlers. The difference is antlers grow back every year. The animal grows antlers, they drop them, and then they will regrow them the following year. horns last forever. So the difference between an antler and a horn is forever. How's that? We have clothing we take out and share with the students. I'll share with you a couple illustrations here of some very fancy shoes for the time. People at 200 years ago were much smaller than we are today. But these shoes date probably from 1860 or thereabouts. They're not as old as one would think. And the reason I know that is that you have both of these shoes. No, actually, this is a right shoe, this is a left shoe. Shoes only became left and right around 1860, 1870. Prior to that, it was just like that very nice pair of slippers you have at home. There is no right shoe, there is no left shoe, they're just slippers. Well, shoes were that way. You did not have a right shoe nor a left shoe. You just had shoes. Other things we take out. I'm going to need some help trying to figure out what this might be. Almost every family had at least one of these, and they were used quite often. You can see they have tubes. Just have 8 different tubes. And actually on the bottom of each one, they have a little hole in the bottom. The trick here, if anyone would like to guess what this is a candle mold. You would put your string or your wick in there, tie it off up here, and then put your wax in there, and you would make your own candles. One of my favorite minerals. Look at the sparkle here. We get the question all the time, is it gold? Well, it kind of is gold, but it's fool's gold. If you find pyrite and believe you have real gold, well, you're a fool, because that is essentially fool's gold. I was talking about railroad spikes previously and how they were utilized. An interesting concept. The head of a railroad spike is on one side, hangs over on one side, so it could be driven in to hold the rail in place, whereas if it was this way, the rail would just simply jump off of it. So there was a purpose for everything. I'm going to end it at this time, at that point. I probably, or I may or may not, do another one of these. Let's see what the reception is for this. But let me assure you that with the group of volunteers, you would get a much better presentation. But I did enjoy it. Hope you enjoy it. Study hard. Take this time to learn what you can. Missouri is a great, great state. The history of Missouri is very, very fascinating. And I apologize that I did not talk about famous Missourians. But one of the more famous Missourians, or should be very famous, is Tom Bass. Tom Bass was a Boone County native, born on a farm not too far from us here at Museum and Gallery, and he was a slave, was later freed by his owner, the Bass family, and Tom Bass became an international renowned trainer of horses. His concept or his belief was there is no such thing as a bad horse, but you can make a good horse bad. And he invented a bit, a very humane bit to put in the horse's mouth that would get their attention but in no way harm them. So the Bass bit is still being used today, and he's a good program in and of himself. So I will conclude at this time. Have a great day. Behave yourself. Listen to your parents. Bye-bye. And your teacher. Bye-bye.